Check the description for the following discount codes.
Well, another Pimax headset. Oh, that's the controllers vibrating in the background. You may or may not have heard those. And another, what feels like half-finished beta experience. Just like the 5KX, just like the 8KX, 5K Super, whatever the hell they were called. Everything just feels like it's not ready. Let's talk about the positives first. And there are, there's one, there's one positive, and that is the display. Let me just bring up the full spec of the display. The display, or displays, are absolutely beautiful. There's no getting around that. They are QLED mini LED, yeah, with a resolution of 5760 by 2880 combined. And yes, they do look absolutely lovely by far, you know. But with everything else, all the ball ache that comes along with this, it's just not worth it. Most of the time, the headset doesn't work properly. And that's just not acceptable, you know, in 2023, especially for a wired headset. There's not even the added complication of wireless connectivity over a router or a dedicated dongle. You still have to plug it in with a cable, which is a nice, good quality cable, I might add. Feels nice and soft, very pliable. It's decent, no complaints there at all. But yeah, these displays are really, really nice. The colours, the contrast, the blacks, the overall brightness, you know, not obviously going too bright to wash things out, but getting it just right. Really, really nice. Just, you know, can't complain. The lenses, which are spheric lenses, are really, really clear also. And there's kind of nothing, you know, in the way of over-the-top God rays, screen door effect. There's not even any visual distortion like there was in the other Pimax headsets. But that's because the field of view isn't anywhere near as big. This, to be honest, doesn't feel like you've got a huge field of view compared to, say, a Pico 4 or something. It really doesn't feel that much bigger. And the lenses are interchangeable. You can change them from 35 ppd pixels per degree lenses, which are what's in there from standard, to different ones. Now, they didn't send me the additional ones. In fact, let me just scroll down here and tell you what should have come in the box, because I don't seem to have got half the stuff. So this says everything in the box: headset, 2 controllers, the cable, a two Type-C charging cables, the charging dock, and 2 batteries. Now, I've got the dock. The dock is actually simply the battery compartment from the headset, but not attached to the headset. It's not like a custom-made dock. It's literally the back half of this. And that's not because you swap this in and out. You take the battery by squeezing these 2 tabs here out, which is not an easy thing to do. Bear with. Okay, there we go. So that is their dock. It is literally just the back of the headset, which is why it's still curved like this and like this. You can't set it on a table and it sit flat. It'll be, as you can see, there. So that, you know, with just a USB-C port for charging in it, you know, the batteries are, of course, curved. They are 6,000 milliamp hour batteries. And you have to have the batteries installed, or one battery installed, even for wired PC VR use. And this is a real negative, because it makes what's already a very heavy headset even heavier. And it's not even well balanced either. Let me, so where's I'll get my Pico, in fact, just for comparison. 1 second. Put the mic back on. Really professional, Carl. Right, so here's an example of a really well balanced headset. Batteries in the back, electronics are in the front, sits nicely, and that is how it feels on your head too. right? That's great. That's the advantages of putting the battery in the back. Here is the Pico, and as you can see, it's very much still front heavy. Falls down to the front every single time. And that's with a battery installed in the back. The whole thing, I haven't actually weighed it, but the whole thing compared to this is, I mean, look at the size difference as well. That is just phenomenal. You can almost get 2 Picos to the width of 1 Pimax. And you're not getting anything extra for that massive width. The field of view really isn't, yes, it's bigger, but it's not worth all this extra weight, you know, by a long way. And on top of that, it's not comfortable to wear. It comes with 2 facial interface gaskets, a smaller one like this, which is what was installed, and then this larger one you see there with the bigger sort of forehead padding. Now that does fit much better than what this one does, definitely. And it eliminated a lot of the light leakage, but I've still got quite big gaps at the sides, and I still get some light leakage at the bottom. So even though it's better than that other one, it's still not great. The other issue is, even with this done up, like that's kind of now uncomfortably tight. The bridge of my nose, something hard is resting on the bridge of my nose, and in fact, well, I'll tell you what it is. It's the inside of the lenses, either side there. Even like so, the nose shroud is sitting on my nose, but then the weight of the headset is coming through these lenses, and it makes it very uncomfortable to wear. Now you can adjust the top strap, but the top strap is elasticated. So this top piece here actually passes power from the battery to the front. It's this piece here that's the actual strap that's adjustable with Velcro here. But it's elasticated, as you can see, and you can see the weight of the headset stretches it out. So even if you do that, pull it up quite tight, it still stretches and sags a little bit. It's just not a good design. I don't know why they made it elastic. It should be solid. So yeah, it's big, it's bulky, it's very heavy, it's not well balanced. I get light leakage, it rests on the bridge of my nose and makes my nose sore, which is what the other Pimax headsets did as well. This one has come fitted with the upgraded audio, so I can't comment on what the standard audio sounds like, but these do sound really good. Again, but they're an optional extra. And the price of this thing, without those speakers, is $1,599. $1,600. That is a phenomenal amount of money for this headset, when the only positive is a really nice looking display. It's just too much. But yeah, we've got motorized automatic IPD adjustment for foveated rendering, because we've got eye tracking. All that stuff's great, you know, but it's horribly uncomfortable. It's heavy. It's not well balanced. And then there's the reliability and the software side of things, which I'll get to in a minute. Incidentally, putting the battery in and out of this is just as much ball ache as it was putting it in and out of that. Still awkward. I mean, you kind of get used to it, but yeah, it's not easy. In fact, let me just give you a little close-up of the headset, because this faceplate is interchangeable for one that you can use with base stations. You've got a button up there, and that adjusts your IPD. You can hear the motors whirring away. You've got volume and power there. You've got your USB-C in the side there. That's what I had to plug in to do the firmware update when I first got it. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then we've got another USB underneath for future accessories. The speakers, as I say, are the optional ones, so I can't come out on standard ones. We've got this huge, great adapter here to plug in your DisplayPort cable, full-size DisplayPort cable. And what it actually does is it plugs into here, which is also a full-size DisplayPort cable. So one of the things, the Pimax rep that was helping me troubleshoot this, because I had to speak to them because it wasn't working, said was, unplug this adapter and plug the DisplayPort straight into the headset. So you can actually plug it straight into there, it's just it protrudes a bit further. It's just a clanky, why do that? There's no need for it. No other headset on the planet has a huge, great port on the side, and it doesn't plug in easily either. It does show you on the top which way round to put it in, so it's not like a USB port where you put it in the wrong way and then you put it in the other way and it still doesn't go in and then it weirdly goes back in the first way. You do at least, sorry, that's the wrong end. You can at least see which way to put it in, but because it's the same shape, but it doesn't always go in very well. So like that, there we go, it's just gone in. And it's really quite hard to get in and out as well. Now, you shouldn't be taking it in and out very often. Well, actually, no, that's not true. Because when the standalone mode becomes available, you're not going to be rolling around in standalone mode with a cable hanging out the back for absolutely no reason, are you? Now, it needs to go in and be secure so it doesn't fall out. But when you do need to take it in and out, you really don't want something that's too stiff, because you kind of, it's a bit too much strength required, in my opinion. Now, typically it's going in first time every time now, but I can assure you there's a few occasions where I'm in there and I'm kind of wiggling it around until it goes in. Not the best solution, and not something we've seen on other headsets really. All the other ones that are like PC compatible, wired and wireless, all use USB-C, but that is because they compress the image, whereas this is sending it, uncompressed through a display port. But they could have used a smaller, mini display port, for example. I know they're not the best connection, but surely they could have made some sort of implementation that would have made it, solid and decent. Anyway, let's take that back out of there for now. Get this out of the way. I have no idea where I was up to in this review now. I've just got massively sidetracked. So we've covered all the physical, all the physical ports, all the physical buttons. The head strap obviously adjusts at the back, which is what we like to see, and you can see the battery is there as well. The foam is reasonably comfortable, no issues with that at all. It's just the whole headset is heavy and uncomfortable and doesn't sit well on my head. Now, I'd show you some footage of me using this, both playing sim racing titles and normal PC VR, but I can't. The reason why I can't is because when I wanted to do some sim racing, if I had any other USB device plugged into my computer except my keyboard and mouse, this wouldn't connect. It just wouldn't. It just said disconnected on the Pimax software. Nothing I could do about it. I tried every single USB port, I unplugged every single USB device until I eventually found one USB port that it liked and that would work with my keyboard and mouse plugged in. And even then, it would still randomly disconnect for absolutely no reason. And in doing so, would render the USB port useless. It just wouldn't work. If I was to then plug a keyboard and mouse into that USB port, swapping things around, nothing. Didn't even make the sound in Windows to acknowledge that I put anything in or out, and I would have to restart my PC. All this sort of ball ache is just indicative of Pimax and their headsets. And in 2023, it really shouldn't be the case. It really shouldn't. There's no need for it. So yeah, that's the physical attributes, and I've been through the spec, obviously, of the headset, the aspheric lenses, the resolution, the pixels per degree, QLED mini LED. See the panel, it's annoying because it looks so nice inside. It's just everything else is terrible. What's really funny here is it says angular design from the future. That isn't angular design from the past. That is what all your headsets look like. There's nothing futuristic about it at all. In fact, if anything, the Pico has a futuristic looking design, Not this enormous monstrosity that doesn't warrant its size or weight for any reason. So let's talk about the controllers as well. In fact, let me just quickly scroll in here in case I've missed anything, because it's very easy. I was going to make this review yesterday, but I was so frustrated and angry at the hours I've spent trying to get this to work. I just couldn't do it. I was like, no, just leave it, Cole. Do it tomorrow when you've calmed down, because it's just too much. There's nothing else really here. I have been through everything. As I say, the standalone mode isn't yet supported or working. Oh yeah, other things that were supposed to come within the box was a screwdriver set, the additional lenses, and a power and connection hub kit, which would have utilised this very old school USB 3 connection. I've only ever seen that style of USB 3 connection on external hard drives from maybe 10 years ago. I don't know if they're still used, but like my recent USB hard drive definitely uses USB-C, so God knows what that's for, because it's something to do with the power and connection hub, but I haven't got the rest of it. I just got sent that. I also got sent what looks like a charger with a barrel plug on the end. I have no clue what that's for. Maybe again it's to do with the power and connection hub. I don't know, but I haven't got anything that plugs into. It's very weird. So what else? The controllers. The controllers are your typical Oculus clones, which is fine. It's something we're all used to. It means you get button parity in games and everything works as you would expect. The thumbsticks do feel really, really nice. They've got a nice rubber texture to them, very grippy. Better, in fact, than some others, I would say. I would say actually nicer than the ones on the Pico. These are super grippy. So if you get a bit sweaty, probably not going to slip your thumbs off. And the rest of the buttons all feel really nice too. The handsets, are they handsets? The controllers, where you grip them, they don't creak or crack like the Pico ones did. They have kind of a feeling of cheapness, but it's partly because they're really, really light. They have integrated batteries that are rechargeable for USB-C at the bottom, so you don't have to put your typical AA batteries in. You know, controllers that use two AA batteries feel really quite weighty compared to these. So that is actually quite nice, in fact. The triggers and the grip buttons do feel a little on the cheaper side, but not by much. So I actually give the controllers the thumbs up. I actually think these are quite nice controllers to use. Nothing really much to grumble about. The plastic also looks a little cheapy, but it's just appearance. You know, they feel okay, and the thumbsticks I do really like. So they're nice. And I had no real issues with tracking either. The headset tracked these fine, and it also tracked my movements fine. So no issues with the tracking once everything worked. Or I say not once, whilst everything was working. A lot of the time it wasn't. Random disconnects and what have you. So, what else did I experience whilst trying to do this? Well, yes, so from the beginning I plugged it in, and I had all this ball ache of unplugging every single USB device I've got until I could get it to work. This is why there's no footage of me doing sim racing. I couldn't do any sim racing, not in my rig anyway, because as soon as I plugged in my USB devices, i.e. steering wheel, pedals, controls, just wouldn't connect. Simple as that. I even took this downstairs to try on the downstairs PC in the hope that maybe I'd get more luck with that. That PC didn't recognise it at all. Well, I tell a lie, you plug the USB in and it made the "you've plugged something in" sound, but just Pimax software, disconnected. Not even a flicker, nothing. And I tried every USB port on that, and the only things I have plugged in downstairs is a USB keyboard and an Xbox controller. And obviously I unplugged both of those. Tried every single port, nothing. Just wouldn't connect. And that's where I'd normally show you footage of me playing PC VR games with my screen in the background, so you can see what I'm playing there whilst I'm walking about the room, you know, to demonstrate it. But I couldn't do that because it wouldn't work. And this is just, this is why, like, in my thumbnail, I'm just like, ugh, how are we in 2023 still producing, Pimax still producing headsets that don't work properly, you know, that have USB connection issues? It reminds me of the early days of the Oculus CV1 and the DK and DK2, where it was super finicky about what USB ports you plugged in. That isn't the case these days, or at least it shouldn't be. I mean, my goodness, what's going on where you can't just plug it in to, you know, a USB. Oh yeah, maybe if you've got something else pulling a lot of bandwidth from that port, it's a problem. So you unplug whatever that device is, you put it on its own header. But no, out of like 10 USB ports, only one worked semi-reliably. And on the PC downstairs, nothing worked. I just don't, honestly, I was so frustrated. Hours and hours spent monkeying around and, you know, trying to shoot a video to demonstrate me using it, and I physically can't do it because it doesn't work with other USB devices plugged in. or it doesn't work on the computer downstairs to do the PCVR, you know. And up here, it would work, but that TV there isn't connected to this PC, so I couldn't do that. That's connected to a different PC that wouldn't run this. It's got a 1050 Ti in it or something, so you wouldn't be testing it on that one. So yeah, I can't show you me doing anything other than obviously how it sits on my head, which is not comfortable and not good either. Now that is of course head and face shape dependent. Some of you it might fit really well, you know, other people like me, it just doesn't. So positives, the displays and the controllers. Oh, apart from the haptics, the vibration motors or whatever they've chosen to use inside these are awful. They just give you this high-pitched buzz. I was going to say it's comparable to an electric toothbrush, but an electric toothbrush has a deeper vibration than what those do. So they're really not good haptics at all. So, other issues I had, and most of this review is negative because the only positives are displaying the controllers and the tracking's good. Other issues I had, in fact, I'll show you that. Let me go through these let me show you the software now. So let me put that clip up and show you it. This is the Pimax software that we get now, and it is a big step forward compared to what it used to be. Much more user-friendly. On the main screen here, we've got, I'll just go through it quickly, guidance literally to enter the user guide, room settings, where you would set up obviously your room configuration, and that's an interesting point. I don't know if I'll have mentioned this or not in the video yet, but almost every time I turn the computer on or re-plug in the headset, it asks me to set up the bloody room again. It doesn't seem to remember the room settings. And this kind of goes hand in hand perhaps with the fact that there's no guardian or boundary in this either, which is also irritating. And then there was the actual sort of room setup itself. One of the things it does, I mean, I'm just going to pretend I'm doing it, it doesn't really matter, but this is what you do. Put it in the middle of the floor, and it says in a location visible from the base stations. So whilst the software has been, you know, changed and improved, they're still referencing using base stations, even though this, you know, with this faceplate, it's got inside-out tracking. You think it would know the difference. So you put it in the floor there, and then you hold it up, and then you calibrate the center. I'll just go through it, even though it's sat on the desk beside me. And then we do next, and then here it says place the headset on a stable surface and enter the height from the ground, and then click to calibrate. So I'd put it on the floor like it shows you in the picture, and I'd put in like 2 centimeters as my height, because that's roughly where the middle of the headset was from the floor, or the sort of bottom sensors. And when I put the headset on, this would put the floor at like chest height, and there's no way you can reset the floor, you know, on the fly. Why can't you just use a controller and put it down on the floor like you can with every other headset on the market? So that was really irritating. In addition to that, it would the floor level would just change throughout play sessions. 1 minute I'd be floating below it, next minute I'd be floating really high up. It just didn't work. Anyway, that's the room settings. Restart headset does as it describes. It restarts the headset. Device settings, the top here, your refresh rates, the backlight brightness. This really needs to be at 100. Any lower and it just looks really dim. IPD adjustment range, gesture analog handle. I actually have no idea. Oh, handle probably means controller, because the next one says the handle simulates the index handle. So I'm guessing that's controller. Obviously I haven't played with either of those because the frustration of this whole thing was just too much. And then you've got some game settings here, you know, your different render qualities. It would have been nice to actually see a resolution here rather than a multiplier, but it is what it is. Foveated rendering, so that it renders, you know, crisper in the center where your eyes are and a lower resolution around. Smart smoothing, don't know what that is. By predicting tracking data and the video feed of the headset, the refresh rate can be improved by frame interpolation. There you go, that's what that one does. Hidden area mask. Prevent pixels that are not usually visible due to barrel distortion from rendering. So that would save some GPU power as well. Compatible with Vive only game No idea. Then we've got some colour tweaking here and there for your different lenses and your brightness. So there's a lot you can play with, but then there always was with the Pimax stuff, and it's usually because you needed to. Firmware, obviously I'm on the latest firmware. That was a massive ball ache to update. I may already have mentioned it, I may not. Probably took me 10 attempts to do it. I ended up having to use a USB-C to USB-C cable to actually get a reliable connection and for it to work. Using USB-A to USB-C just didn't seem to work. It would always fail. Screen, time off, default, technical support, diagnosis, firmware log, switch, get firmware log, just standard logging stuff really. Again, because you need to do so much bloody filling around and diagnostics to get it to work. Then we've got our lens settings here. So that's what's in device settings. Start Steam VR, does what it says. Pairing options, restart the service on the PC or shut down. None of these other things here are clickable. They're just for display purposes. You've got a battery indicator here. If the controllers were on, let me give them a shake to wake them up. We should see those appear down here. Although now they're not. No. Usually, I mean, they did vibrate to tell me they've woken up. Usually they appear down there. Oh, there we go. They've appeared. So yes, that's where they are, and it usually shows you, yeah, it shows you battery life for the controllers as well. What's interesting is they've both been fully charged, but for some reason the left-hand one, or the one on the left here, seems to be massively depleted versus the right-hand one. So that's what we got there. Then we've got the store where you can buy games from. Now, I've not bought any games from here because I'm assuming, because obviously I've been using this with Steam VR, so I don't know whether these are supposed to be standalone games, but the standalone features don't actually work yet. It still says it's coming soon or whatever it says when you load it up into standalone mode. But yeah, what does it actually say here? Because I haven't even looked at this because I use Steam VR to try it out, obviously for sim racing and for all my other VR titles. No, doesn't really tell us. Storage space requirements 0. Okay, graphics card GTX 1050. No, these are PC VR games. Well, that's interesting then. You think you just get them from Steam? So this must be, yeah, GTX 1080 graphics card requirement. And look, this is not my internet speed that's making this load up slowly. My internet speed here is something like 900 meg. So their servers, their end, must be very, very slow. Because look, that picture is still loading. But anyway, yes, that's the store. My assets, applications, downloads, wish list, same thing here. So this is stuff that I've actually got installed in my Steam library. In fact, we can see here. Then there's your account, your wallet, software settings itself, automatic start. I should turn that off because that's annoying. And then help. So that is the software. It is a big improvement over, previous Pimax software, but it's still not great. It's still referencing base stations when there's no base stations plugged in. In fact, this here, look, says base station, and it's a picture of the headset. And there's grammatical errors and spelling errors that we see earlier. Just little things to show that it's not polished and it's still very much like a beta product. Anyway, yes, that's the software. Yeah, so that's the software there. And you can see we've got spelling errors, we've got things referencing base stations when there are no base stations. It's still not how it should be, even though it's leagues ahead of what the Pimax software used to be. So, whilst trying to get this to work, I was on Discord to Pimax. They're sending me over PDF documents of troubleshooting and guides and open up command prompt and type in this and go into these settings and do this. This is not something a consumer should have to do just to get their headset to work. It really isn't. You should be able to plug it in, and for most people, it should just work. Like the Meta headsets, like the Pico headsets, like the Reverb G2, like the Valve Index, like everything else except Pimax. So I mentioned in the clip a second ago about the firmware updates crashing. It took me at least 10 attempts to update the firmware. After doing the firmware updates, the USB connectivity was better, because in the beginning, I couldn't do the firmware update because first of all, it didn't seem to like going USB-A to C, and I had to use a USB-C to C cable because I've got USB-C on the motherboard. That worked. But also the headset would just disconnect so often. It would literally be cycling almost, disconnected, connected, disconnected, connected, you know, and it was like, stay connected. I'm like, right, brilliant. Let's get Steam loaded up, put the headset on, Steam home, and then boom, disconnected again. Or I'd fly through the floor or something ridiculous where it would all just go completely out of kilter. So that was annoying. One thing about these displays, they're beautiful to look at, but they're noisy. If you ever had a plasma television, when you turn it on and there's no audio coming out, you hear this high-pitched whine from the display or the display driver or controller or whatever it might be, I don't know. There's this high-pitched whine and it changes, the pitch of the whine changes with the brightness or the colours or whatever's on the display. So like a darker scene on this with the Pimax logo makes one type of high-pitched noise, and then when the display goes to a lighter visuals, the pitch changes. So you get this continual as it's changing from one thing to another. Now, if you've got your speakers up reasonably loud, you don't notice it. But if you don't have your speakers up reasonably loud, you can hear it, and it is annoying. So that's just another weird thing. Speaking of weird things, whilst trying to do the firmware update, like 10 times in a row, I think it was my CPU fan in the PC was ramping up and up and up and up, and I have no idea why. I brought up Task Manager, Performance Monitor, nothing was really doing anything. And yet, every time I tried to do a firmware update and the bar's progressing, my fan's ramping up and up and up. No, and as soon as the firmware update failed, or finally finished, the fans would slow back down again. I don't know what that's got to do with anything, I just thought I'd mention it because it was weird. So, anything else aside from that long list of ball ache to talk about with this headset? Oh, the room setup that you have to do that I showed you in the video of the software a second ago. Might have mentioned it in there. That doesn't seem to always stay remembered. You'll turn the PC on, you'll go to use the headset, and you plug it in and it prompts you to set up your room again. It's just weird. Why doesn't it remember that? In fact, why? The whole summary really of this headset is it is indicative of a Pimax headset. There are some positives. In this case, it's the nicest display I've seen from them, and on most VR headsets. But I went back and forward from this to my Pico, comparing those displays. And yes, there is a noticeable difference. But I would pick the Pico every single time over this because it works. And because it's balanced and it's comfortable and it's light. But more importantly, because it works. There's no point having a VR headset that doesn't actually work. And I'm not even sure why we got sent them as reviewers without the standalone functionality working, because I can't test wireless connectivity if it even supports PC VR over wireless. I mean, it might be a case of using virtual desktop if that's available at some point, I don't know. But it does seem odd that, you've gone to all the trouble of making it standalone, adding this battery in that adds a whole load of weight that you have to use in PC VR mode as well. But they send them out without the standalone option available. And as I say, it's on the latest firmware and software, and it still says AIO mode unavailable, all in one mode, presumably it stands for, unavailable at the moment. So, I don't know, it's weird. But yeah, so to summarise and to reiterate, lovely lenses, lovely displays, good tracking, good controllers, bar the vibrations. Everything else, utterly terrible. Massively unreliable, hugely uncomfortable and heavy, at least for my face shape and head shape. I mean, the weight stays the same for everybody. Poorly balanced and feels like a half-finished beta product as far as software and reliability goes, to the point where if I wanted to use this for sim racing, I can't, because plugging any USB devices in bar my keyboard and mouse stops it from working. One of the troubleshooting things says, do not use wireless keyboard and mice. What if you've got wireless keyboard and mouse? What are you supposed to do? Go buy another mouse and keyboard just so that you can use your headset? It doesn't make any sense, does it? And it shouldn't be like that. But anyway, how long have I been waffling on for? 28 minutes. That's probably long enough to give you my impression of this incredibly frustrating headset from Pimax. So as always, thank you very much for watching and take it easy.